The country of Great Britain is a railway country, with a history that spans the course of 150 years, with many stories to tell. These are the stories of the men, women and steam locomotives who worked and served under the almighty power which was British Railways. A time of innovation, motivation and change for the men, women, their work, and the steam locomotives and their services. These are the stories of the locomotives and their crews who worked hard under the threat of their lines closing, their jobs changing, and simply replacement, whilst keeping their spirits high through their adventures. These are the stories of the locomotives of British Railways.
Episode 5. A Bow for the Golden Arrow. In the heyday of the Southern Railway, it was never uncommon to see some sort of brand new passenger express service coming in and out of London stations and travelling away to far off destinations, most likely to the seaside. Unlike the other three of the big four railway companies' express passenger services, and indeed regular passenger services, were the lifeblood of the SR, as being so close to the south coast meant they were much more closer to countries across the Channel and provided great ocean liner expresses to and from docklands like Southampton and Dover. But they also had remarkable express trains that all provided luxury services to luxury destinations, with such names as the Atlantic Coast Express, the Bournemouth Belle, the Canada, and of course, the most famous of all Southern Express services, the Golden Arrow. The Golden Arrow Express was unique. It ran from London Victoria Station to Dover Harbour. At Dover Harbour, the coaches of the express would have been uncoupled from a British locomotive and then loaded onto a ferry going across the Channel to arrive at Calais docks in France. From there, a French locomotive would have taken it the rest of the way to France's capital, Paris. And now, the Golden Arrow is still going strong. This time it's gone under a new advertising campaign by British Railways Public Relations Division, and with that, British Railways is seeking new locomotives to be at the head of the Golden Arrow services. So this meant the hunt was on to find suitable locomotives. This created slight tension between all the different sheds on the railway, as they wanted their own express engines to pull the Golden Arrow. And this was the topic of discussion at Brighton one day, as Sir Kay, Oliver, Johnny and his cousin, a West Country called Wilton, were all talking about the Golden Arrow and who should pull it.
Absolutely correct. No doubt one of the finest express trains ever to run in the world. Of course, it started off by the French in the 1920s with the Flèche d'Or running from Calais to Paris, but then later we introduced our equivalent on this side of the Channel.
Is he always this, well, upper class?
Yeah, pretty much. But this is one of his good days, so it could be worse.
It was also a fast train, Sir Kay, don't forget that. An hour and a half from London to Dover.
Yes, it went swiftly across the Channel, then continued on at express speed.
Absolutely. Amongst other things, of course, such as the quality of the food that they served on board.
Well, this is very interesting. I did not know there was so much history. Carry on, Sir Kay.
Well, unfortunately, after the breakout of the Second World War, there was no time to let us express engines do our job, and instead focused our attention on hauling the ammunition and freight, so the Golden Arrow was cut from the timetable.
Oh, how awful. But understandable.
Oliver was built during the Second World War, so he quite understood the reason as to why the Golden Arrow was cancelled. But thankfully, in 1946, the Southern Railway brought the express back. Only this time it was hauled by the...
It was held by the magnificent Merchant Navy Pacifics, our eldest cousins, in beautiful green and yellow, streaking along the line. It made the journey time a lot faster getting to Dover.
It was the bullet engines that helped bring back the Golden Arrow and make it great again for a new generation.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say it was the new generation.
Quite right. The Southern Railways was just keeping with the times and making the Golden Arrow more modern and more in keeping with the timetables like we have today.
Hang on a minute, King Arthur. How is this any of your business, talking about how wonderful it is and becoming more in keeping with the timetable today? Why are you talking so much about this train?
Well, I don't think that is any of your business.
Well, it is my business, because you made it everyone else's business.
Well, I had no business to make it anyone's business because it is my business.
Wait, I had no idea that this business is strictly your business, since this business is everyone's business, as everyone is talking about it, which makes it everyone's business.
Wait, what? Hang on, I've lost track.
That is ironic since everyone here is on tracks.
And you had to point that out, didn't you?
Sorry, it was right there for the taking, so I grabbed it. I couldn't resist.
How can you grab something when you don't have arms?
I don't think he was talking about grabbing something literally, Oliver. He's just being metaphorical.
What does that mean?
Doesn't matter. What I was trying to say was that if there is an opportunity to build a train like this, then I'll run at the opportunity to try and get a place on the roster.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen. You know it's going to go to a light Pacific.
Not necessarily. These are times of change after all. So maybe to help out with that, it needs influence from engines like me.
Oh, do you mean old?
Whom are you calling old?
No, old is not the word you're looking for. Antiquated is more like it. What do you think, Oliver?
I don't know. Sorry, Johnny.
Hey, come on, we're getting off topic here.
I agree. And anyway, Wilton's right. If any engine is going to have to pull the Golden Arrow, it's got to be the most modern and fastest engines in the southern region. That was the case when the Lord Nelsons held onto the train, and I believe it's the same case today.
Well, clearly that is not a convincing argument, but maybe an immature response like that might be the right one. As admittedly, I'm not the oldest or wisest engine in the shed.
Thank the designer.
So I think our resident wise old saint should settle this debate. Rafferty?
There's a dead fly on me buffer.
Rafferty!
What? Sorry. Yeah. I think you're talking out your chimneys.
Come again from the Little Blue Tank engine.
The Golden Arrow is a much loved and much celebrated express train which has been pulled by many locomotives of all different shapes and sizes throughout the years. Don't you think it's a good idea trying to pass this great mantle down to someone else? To an engine who can be proud at the helm of this train?
Well, who are you suggesting? The standard engines? Absolutely not!
Okay, well that was insulting.
Insulting? How dare you?
How dare me? You're the one who started the verbal altercation on standard engines.
What on rail are you talking about?
You're discriminating towards standard engines. 4MTs, standard tanks, Britannias, all of them are just as capable of pulling a named train just as much as me.
If not, even more capable.
Oh god, how did we even get to this point again?
To be honest, I'm asking myself that question a lot, Johnny.
At this point of the conversation, Johnny had suddenly come to a realization.
Wait, so what you're saying is that because of all the defining qualities that you have, and the claim that you could bring something different to the Golden Arrow service, makes you eligible to pull it?
At last, 222 Squadron, you finally understand now.
Oh, no, not you.
What do you mean, not me?
Oh, come on. How can you be so ignorant? I've seen the amount of ash that comes out of your smoke box at the end of a long run. That's only from here to Clapham.
Oh, come on, Johnny, no need to point that out.
No, I'm serious. Have you seen the amount of ash that comes out of this smoke box? It's like a baby volcano.
Well, that doesn't make any sense. It's not spewing out any sort of lava.
Not literally. I'm just going by how it looks.
Johnny, no engine wants to see another engine's ash after a long run.
But a lot of us do, sweetheart.
Quiet, you!
Okay, we're getting off topic here. Let's just point out the obvious candidate for the Golden Arrow service. A certain Light Pacific that has a nice, charming smile and a useful know-how about a lot of things.
He looked at Rafferty with anticipation.
Oh, of course.
Exactly.
Wilton is absolutely perfect for it. Good call, mate.
No! I was talking about me, not Wilton.
Really, you, Johnny?
Yes, me, Johnny. 222 Squadron, the fastest locomotive this side of the south coast. People come from miles around just to see how fast I can go.
Do they, Johnny? Do they really?
Yeah, perhaps not.
I knew it. No point trying to fool someone when someone can't be fooled.
Well, surely that depends on what kind of fool they are.
That subject's open for debate.
Perhaps. Maybe it's just a matter of perspective.
In that case, your perspective is faulted. If there's anything I've learned recently, it's that it's not all about speed, but the ability to deliver a swift and on-schedule service.
Sakei's attention was now immediately drawn to the Battle of Britain standing a few roads away from him.
But of course, you could get away with a bit of speed, but I wouldn't recommend it.
What debate is this now, Nicholas?
I did not say it was any sort of debate, Sakei. Anyway, there is a clear objective here, engines.
That's right, Nicholas. We need to find out who is suitable for pulling the Golden Arrow.
Okay, that rules you out then.
How dare you? I am more than capable of handling expresses as regal and luxurious as the Golden Arrow.
Oh, really?
Yes, really.
When was the last time you saw a King Arthur holding the Golden Arrow?
There is a first time for everything, 222 Squadron, and you know it. And besides, Lord Nelson's originally pulled the Golden Arrow.
Yes, but you're not a Lord Nelson. You were built before the days of the original Golden Arrow. And that was then, this is now. It won't have the same atmosphere if you pull it.
What on earth do you mean by that?
Oh, stop being such a drama king, Sakei.
Well, as much as I'd like to see Sakei looking pleased at the forefront of the Golden Arrow service, and maybe proven wrong, the decision isn't up to us. The decision of which engine pulls the Golden Arrow service is decided by the officials. We unfortunately don't have a say on who pulls the train.
Oh, well, that's just spectacular.
Yes, that's correct, Nicholas, but we can influence their decision.
Exactly. We may not be in the decision-making chair, not that we can fit into the chair, but we can influence them. There's nothing wrong of proving them that we can.
That is absolutely correct. There isn't any harm with doing that. But there are hundreds of Pacific-type locomotives running all over the south of England who are just as suitable to pull the train from London to Dover. So you're gonna really have to pull your coaches and work hard if you want to stand out.
That is exactly what I'm going to do.
And that is exactly what I'm going to do.
Please don't challenge me, Wilton. It doesn't suit you, darling.
Come on, a little competition never hurt anyone. Or are you just concerned that a West Country might show you up?
Not at all. I'm just saying, you haven't got a chance.
Yes, she does.
Excuse me, my kind sir?
The two of you are both Pacific-type engines. You are both designed by the same person, and you are both built to pull the same kind of trains. It's all evenly matched, to be honest. But it will be fascinating to see what happens if the two of you both compete against each other.
It will be fascinating. In fact, I think the crews are starting to put bets on the competition.
Competition then, so I guess it's on.
Oh, it's on, West Country.
Bring it on, Battle of Britain.
And with that, Wilton puffed away, leaving a rather confident Johnny and Sakei in the shed behind her.
If I may offer some kind advice, we are all built for different things. And just because you can't achieve something, or if you're not good enough for something, does not mean you are worthless. It just means you are built for different things. Sakei?
Well, like I said before, Nicholas, there's always a first time for everything, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to prove that I am right.
Cocky King. And what is it you have for me, my friend?
Johnny, I have no doubt in my mind that you are more suitable to pull the train than Sakei is. But I advise caution, because you might not be the one chosen, and if worse comes to worse, you're going to have to accept it. Maturely.
Maturely? Nicholas, I may be young, but I'm not that young. Everything will be alright. Nothing negative will come out of this.
Very good. I just wanted to make sure that you don't do anything reckless and keep your word. I have faith you will do that.
Nicholas gave a slight smile to Johnny. Johnny gave a wink to Nicholas, and the Battle of Britain departed the shed to work. But it was unfortunate that Johnny said that nothing negative would come out of this, as nobody knew what was eventually going to happen.
Long ago there was a day when it looked like the rails would die away. Other machines would go farther and faster, and the steamer trains were headed for disaster. But men with steel in their veins vowed to save the railway trains. They worked day and night, and when they were done, a new era had just begun. People stared in awe and wonder. They were fast and asleep and full of thunder. They followed the path of smoke and fire. They were called streamliners.
The crews of the 3 locomotives, as well as railway officials on board their trains, will be seeing how the locomotives perform in terms of speed, strength, and of course reliability when it comes to pulling their normal daily expresses from London. When it comes to speed, the officials will not be using diometer cars to monitor their speeds. There is no time for record breaking on British railways. Instead, signalmen and timekeepers will be using stopwatches to monitor all locomotive speeds and seeing which engine achieves the highest speed within the speed limit whilst hauling their expresses. Reliability is going to come from the passengers, as they will be asked to give feedback about their journeys by the officials. All of these figures are then reported back to the respective shed masters and station masters, and they will give their results to hand into the offices of the railway. The next few weeks for the 3 engines were a blur of green, maroon, blood and cream, racing to and fro out of London to destinations all across the south of England. Johnny went to Southampton, Sakei went to Clapham Junction, and Wilton went to Tunbridge Wells. They all pulled their trains all over the south just to prove that they are worthy of the Golden Arrow, even meeting each other along the way, as well as other engines who wanted a chance to exchange pleasantries.
You're looking a bit worse for wear, young John. Not feeling up to it? Maybe you should go back to the sheds and admit defeat.
Just you wait and see, your majesty. I've got plenty of steam left in me, and by the time I'm finished, you will be the one in the shed. Mine.
Well, you know what they say.
No. What do they say?
Oh, I don't know. Don't count your hens, don't beat around the bush, don't overdo it, or something along those lines anyway.
going on?
Me, what a noise! Making that sort of
Oh, you've buggered off, thank you very much.
Sorry, Sussex, but I have a destination.
Wilton, I thought you should know we're approaching Hoover Tea.
Good. That means he'll be there.
Guy, are you nearly done? We should have been on our way to Brighton by now, and I need to get a move on before I see...
Haha! Greetings, cousin!
Before that happens.
Just then, the guard blew his whistle,
Right away, Guy.
and Johnny started once again with his milk tray, trying to come up with something clever to say when he got back to Brighton. When he got there, Wilton was already chatting away with Oliver and Rafferty, reminiscing and laughing. Nicholas was also there.
It would appear that your cousin has taken quite a shine to many of the engines here at Brighton.
Well, she has a way of doing that. Wilton has always been a bit of a,
I heard you say my name, Johnny boy.
Darn it. Yes, but nothing too important.
Well, you mentioned my name, Johnny, so I assume it is important. What were you saying about me?
Well, actually, your cousin was about to say something nice about you, Wilton. Carry on, Johnny.
No, nothing like that. I was just about to say to Nicholas how your overconfidence in this competition will be your ultimate downfall.
Really? Well, maybe your negligence is giving you a massive oversight in this whole competition, Johnny. I'm not even allocated to the shed, and yet for the past week or so I've been running my trains to speed and to time, which is a task you're failing to grasp, Battle of Britain.
I am a lot more focused than you realise, West Country, and I will prove that to you.
Really?
Really?
Says the engine who muddled up his chain valve gear a while back. Let's just hope the lightning doesn't strike twice when going up against me.
Well, if you're not careful, the storm will eventually catch up to you.
Silence, you rivet!
Well, that was just plain rude.
I think so too.
They are both right, Johnny. This competition, combined with overbearing amounts of work, is getting to your smoke box.
What are you talking about?
If you would spare a moment to take on old engine's advice, please stop and think for a moment. Otherwise, I'm afraid Wilton has a point, and lightning will strike you hard on the tender.
Perhaps you're right, Nicholas. But sometimes family disputes can be...
This is not a family debate. This is something else. I don't know what, but it is as a result of this competition that ultimately does not matter in the end.
You have a point, Nicholas. Thinking about it does help. But in this scenario, maybe I just need a bit more time. I'm still going to carry on. But I'll keep that in mind.
Good engine!
And smiled at Johnny as he rolled off to go and get cold.
I don't even know why those two are fighting it out verbally anyway. They should know that neither of them is going to win against the other.
How do you mean, Rafferty?
Well, the West Country class and the Battle of Britain class are in many aspects the same engine, but the Southern Railway decided to split them up for publicity reasons. When you pitch the two classes against each other, it is really a case of who will run out of coal and water first.
As they are so evenly matched, but the same cannot be said for their attitudes.
Both the Blue Tank Engine and the Ugly Duckling agreed with the Greyhound, but when it came to attitudes, the same could not be said for Sakay. The N15 was determined to prove to everyone and to himself that he could do it. As for Sakay, this was not just about winning the competition to pull the golden arrow. This was more of a personal crusade. But none of the engines realised this.
I can do this. I know I can do this, and everyone will see. No misjudgments, not this time. Speaking of time, I think I can gain a couple more minutes on this one. More speed, please, driver.
The The driver pushed the regulator further out, and soon he was at a good high speed towards his final destination. However, Oliver had pressing concerns towards the engine that he considered a friend, and was worried. So that night he decided to talk to him about the competition.
Sir Kay, is everything okay? You seem to be a bit agitated about the competition.
Oh, don't worry yourself, Oliver. I'm not agitated in the slightest. What I am is focused and determined.
Why?
Well, you see, Oliver, even though I hold most of you here at Brighton in the highest regards, there are some who don't think the same about me. I know for a fact that a lot of engines think of me as boastful and too self-confident for his own buffers. And that is why I think a lot of engines don't believe I can pull the train. And to be honest, maybe I don't want to pull it. But I want to show them that I can do it, so that they could think of me in a better light. That is why I've been acting this way about it all.
Oliver didn't exactly know what to say. He had never heard Sir Kay to be so deep and honest like this with anyone. But for some sort of reason, it didn't make any sense to him, even though that Sir Kay was quite articulate.
Are you sure about that? I mean, these engines are your friends. Maybe it's just you.
Well, it doesn't matter anyway. I'm still going to prove it to everyone when I set off out to Brighton with a full head of steam tomorrow morning.
But as he drifted off to sleep, Oliver's words played on his mind, as secretly, Sir Kay knew he was right. The next morning, Sir Kay was fired up rather early, sometime around 6 o'clock, for one of the first passenger trains of the day. It was around this time that Johnny had returned from his morning milk run.
So, you ready to try and go for gold then?
Just you wait and see. I am more than capable of doing this, and I like to think of myself as a rather intellectual sort of engine. So that is why I'm going to learn from my previous runs, as I believe my ultimate downfall is my start. I need a good fast start out of the station. That ought to do the trick.
Soon Sir Kay was coupled up to his coaches. His steam pressure rose, his chimney blasted out a gargantuous amount of smoke, and his wheels span as he left the station to proceed down the main line towards London.
That's right. Full power. Full power. Full power, Sir Kay.
Let's just hope he doesn't push himself to the breaking point. Speaking of the point, you're not so into this competition anymore, are you?
Well, Rafferty, I don't know. I mean, don't get me wrong, I want to pull the Golden Arrow as much as the next engine, but recently I'm thinking it's put a bit of a strain between me and my cousin and put a lot of pressure on Sir Kay to get it right.
222 Squadron. Are you finally realising that?
Hush, Rafferty. But yes, I guess maybe I'm learning from my mistakes a lot more often.
Rafferty smiled broadly, and from the corner of the shed, Nicholas had heard everything and felt very proud of his friend. Meanwhile, on the main line, Sir Kay was giving it his all heading towards Haywards Heath, and not too far away, Wilson was also speeding along the line in the opposite direction towards Haywards Heath as well. And for trouble, both for her and Sir Kay.
I can't be late. I cannot be late. How on earth can I be late?
I know you had trouble starting this morning, but that gives you no excuse to go right to the edge of the speed limit.
I've got to make it on time. The results will come in tomorrow and it will compromise my chances of pulling the Golden Arrow. So I can't slow down.
I can do this. I will do this. I must do this.
Careful, Sir Kay. You're running ahead of time, and as far as I'm concerned, you're giving a good service right now, so there's no need to overdo it.
I'm not overdoing it. I just know I can do much better than this. Like you said, I am running well this morning, but I know I can do better.
But both Sakay and Wilton spoke too soon. None of them was stopping at Hayward's station, so both of them were going to be going past at speed, not only through the station, but also through the tunnel. Both Wilton and Sakay were going faster than usual, so this meant they were burning more coal and exhausting more smoke and steam. Soon both engines were approaching opposite ends of the tunnel and the station. There weren't many passengers on the station, but they were all in for a surprise. Suddenly, Sakay entered the tunnel and Wilton approached the station. It all happened at once.
Look out! What on earth? Oh no.
My gosh, who is that?
Oh, crap.
Ah! Is that Wilton? What's going on?
I don't believe it! You've definitely overdone it now.
Ouch! My goodness, that that was too close for comfort.
What did I tell you, you silly girl? I'm slowing you down right now.
What's going on?
When we get to the next junction, I'll tell you.
When we get to Brighton, you'll find out.
Oh, well, that's just spectacular.
Oh dear. What have I done?
Okay, so what exactly happened?
Well, essentially it was a combination of high speed, air pressure, thick amounts of toxic fumes, and overbearing confidence from respective engines.
As a result, I scraped the edge of my casing whilst going over the limit.
And myself gaining a pair of hot axle boxers. That's why I felt so hot.
There was fault on both parts in this situation.
Well, I'm very glad you realised that. Though for some sort of reason I don't think the inspector is going to see it that way. Especially for what happened afterwards.
What happened afterwards was inconsequential to the incident at hand. Me, Wilton and Johnny are the real victims here.
Whoa, hang on, that's not fair. You came into Three Bridges to sort out your axle boxes. You engulfed me in so much steam it was like being in a fog. No regards to me, my crew or anyone else at the station.
I was boiling, Shirley. There were a lot of things going on in that moment, and that's a perfectly reasonable distraction to get annoyed about.
You're a steam engine, you Nimrod. You're always boiling. They don't nickname us kettles for nothing.
Yeah, what about my paint? I was waiting on some corner points, and Wilton, you came round so sharply, resulting in one of your coaches scratching my Caledonian livery, not to mention the soot damage.
You can't prove that.
Wilton, you're literally red buffered.
My buffers are always red. And anyway, if you hadn't been waiting with your truck so close to the point, you wouldn't have received scrapes in your paint in the first place.
Well, of course, the answer is so simple. Unless there was this thing called a signal, this particular one was against me and I couldn't proceed any further.
You could have moved back.
I was on a roll in my work.
You're always on the roll. We have wheels for crying out loud.
Shut up, the pair of you. Arguing does not help anything. It just causes more frustration to everyone else in the shed.
Correct, Albert. Actually, hang on. Hold on a minute. How am I a victim in this?
Because you, along with Wilton and me, were the ones competing for the golden arrow in the first place. And when the railway inspector gets here, he is going to scold the engines that started this problem from the beginning. And if I recall correctly, one of those engines was you, 222 Squadron.
Johnny! My name is Johnny, for crying out loud. How's that so difficult to remember?
You can read. Start using the name on your nameplate.
My name is in honour of the man who led that squadron. It would be dishonourable not to use his name.
Alright, you two, stop this now! Honestly, what is this, 1951? I would have thought that after 4 years of working together at this shed, you would have learned better than to argue with one another.
And yet you're the one in this argument with us.
I am not in any arguments, okay? I am merely just trying to stop it altogether before it goes too far.
I agree. Listen to Nicholas.
Oliver, shut up.
Sakay!
Just like that. But I do slightly agree that the competition for the Golden Arrow is the origin of this aggravation.
Or maybe it's just you.
Just then, a tall figure walked across the tracks towards the engines. It was the railway inspector.
It seems these two express engines are the ones responsible for this mishap.
Well, it's not exactly a mess up, sir. See it.
You don't get to talk. Not until I say so. Because you engines and your crews need to know that acting irresponsibly on the main line during operations, resulting in the breaking of the speed limit and damaging yourself in the slightest, is not accepted.
Suddenly, the two big engines felt rather small.
Well, they are both sorry, sir.
Yeah, and we do realise what we have done. At least I do. And I'm sure Sir Kay does too. But how was one of us supposed to know that another engine was going at that speed?
That doesn't matter. You and your crews know the regulations and should abide by them to avoid this non-sequential nonsense from happening. And for what? Over an express train.
It only started out as a friendly competition, sir.
Well, that friendly competition was to determine which engines were suitable, and quite frankly, other engines from other sheds have done better performances than you've been able to display.
The inspector stared at Sir Kay.
Even though you managed to cover a great distance and achieve a great speed for someone of your class, you should know your place. Realize that you are less than antiquated. You are not built for the speeds of the Pacifics, and you wouldn't even be allowed to pull the Golden Arrow in the first place. So why on earth would you give yourself a hot axle box to try and gain something which you cannot get?
Well, you see,
That is enough!
Wilton decided to pluck up courage.
I assume that this means that none of us get to pull the Golden Arrow?
As a matter of fact, you don't. Your Battle of Britain, on the other hand, has a very good chance according to the signalmen and timekeepers. He is the only one out of the three of you who hasn't strained himself and instead kept to time and speed. He will pull the Golden Arrow when it is deemed necessary. The Southern region has allocated 3 Britannia locomotives in various locations, and one of them is going to be operating the Golden Arrow alongside a couple of Merchant Navy Pacifics.
That's correct. I've met one of those Britannias in the metal. William Shakespeare was his name. I helped him out when he was having trouble with a long train. Nice engine.
Permission to speak, sir.
Yes.
I think I speak on behalf of all of us when I say that these 3 engines are
You do not have the right to speak on behalf of anyone.
The engines were horrified by what they just saw and heard.
Bottom line is that you steam engines are becoming more of a problem every single day, and it is instances like this which makes British Railways feel on edge about your ability to carry out your duties. Remember that you all pledged your services after nationalisation, and you steam locomotives are becoming unreliable in regards to maintenance, running your trains, and especially with instances like this where customers are supposed to rely on you, you let them down. You failed to do so. And this incident proves that.
And once again, it always comes down to money.
That is why the board of directors think it's about time your steam engines were put in check, or better still, put aside.
The engines were absolutely silent, shocked, and at the same time rather scared.
I will report this to the board. In the meantime, you crews must clean up your act and focus on what's important. To do your jobs effectively and properly. No gallivanting in your daydreams. Good night!
And with that, the inspector walked crossly away. The engines were all downcast. Nicholas felt like he should say something, but all he could say was,
Let's wait until morning before we say anything else.
Morning, Nicholas.
Good morning, Oliver. How are you feeling?
Well, I think that after thinking about it, I think I want to do the very best I can and work my hardest today.
Oliver is absolutely right, but at the same time, the railway inspector was right. I apologise for yesterday, Oliver.
That's all right, Sir Kay. You were just stressed.
I agree. In this day and age, when times are changing for the men and women of the railways, we all need to be on the right track, so to speak.
Well said, Johnny.
Well, we should not look at this in a bad way. Just think of it as a chance to look at things in a different way. A more optimistic way. Even though we might feel down at times, we must not forget our overall agenda and our overall purpose on this railway.
Oh, absolutely.
Definitely.
Good idea.
Well, I guess what you said to me was right, Johnny. Nicholas is indeed one of a kind.
He certainly is that. He brings the best out of all of us. I think a lot of us would be lost without him.
All right, everybody. Let's get to work.
And let's try looking at this in a more positive and active light, as we are all about to go and do the jobs that we were built for. And we are going to do those jobs to the best of our abilities. Not just for us, but for the men and women that us as steam locomotives are here to give the service that is required of us.
Well, we might as well. After all, we are the locomotives of British Railways.
You know, all the engines think that you have it all under control. But deep down in that boiler of yours, there's something more, isn't there?
Well, I will not argue against that, my friend. For there is something that has been troubling me for quite some time now.
How long?
Since 1952.
What could have possibly been bothering you for 2 years straight?
Something that the other engines are yet to know about. They are aware of it, but they are yet to know the full details.
I know what you're talking about, but there's smart engines in that shed. They're going to figure it out eventually.
Yes, you are right, Rafferty. You are definitely right there. Sooner or later, the other engines at Brighton are going to discover that the modernization of British railways is coming down the tracks.